Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Keaton. This here's my mother. You know her as the owner and proprietor, well, that didn't pan out well. The racketeer of My Big Tiny House Life. So today on My Big Tiny House Life, I'm going to be interviewing Mom. Some questions I came up with that I thought you folks might be interested in hearing her take on and her wisdom about. So I guess my first question is, and this is one that came to me over the holiday season. As a kid, Christmas has this amazing amount of magic and just kind of wonder to it and this experience. And then you age and you move out and you begin to realize just how much effort your parents went through to give you that kind of experience and those wonderful holiday memories. So I was going to ask you, what is the significance of Christmas to you, and how did you kind of go out of your way to really make our Christmases special as kids? Because I remember a lot of our Christmases being very special.
Ooh, okay, that's a good question. Christmas, what does Christmas mean to me? Well, I think Christmas now, at this point in my life, is very different than it was, I think, when you guys were little.
Sure.
Because when you guys were little, it was still a lot more about stuff.
Yeah.
Than it is now. I think Christmas to me is more about being grateful for people and everything that I have. And when I think of Christmas, I think of family. And family can be blood family, people that you birthed or that birthed you and your extended family. That way, it can also be your friends.
Sure.
And I think that friends sometimes make better family than family.
Sure. You can't choose your family, but you can choose your friends.
You can choose your friends, exactly. So, and I made it special just by trying to make some mystery of it,
Sure.
you know, with Santa and all of those things, and just the anticipation and the build-up and all of that. One of the traditions we always had was taking you guys to see Santa.
Yeah.
And getting a picture of you guys on Santa's lap.
Oh yeah, I had the same Santa for many, many years, from like baby until I was in my double digits at least.
Yeah, and Santa just kept getting smaller, which was an optical illusion because the kids just kept getting bigger and Santa just kept shrinking. Well, he was quite old, so he probably did shrink.
Sure.
It's about us being together.
Yeah.
And whether it's on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, it doesn't really matter. That is what Christmas is.
For sure. I always adored our traditions. Always watch Christmas Story.
Yes.
The animated Grinch. We did the live action Grinch on Christmas morning and found it kind of difficult to eat breakfast during. So it has come to our attention that your children really like to tell the story of you drop kicking a bear.
Oh my God.
This is something that is circulated. I was wondering what your opinion on these allegations were, and if those have ever come up from somebody else after we've mentioned it to them and they've asked you if that was true.
Nobody believes that story.
Are you sure?
You guys are really good at telling it.
Yeah.
The kids, this happened. How did that come about? There's a story that the kids tell of us encountering a bear and them being in imminent danger and me fighting the bear, basically drop kicking the bear.
It was like she was 10 feet away and then she was there with that bear in an action frame, just bleh. You should have seen it.
No, that's not true. Not that I wouldn't put myself between a bear and my kids. It doesn't matter how old they are, but that never happened. We never saw a bear. I never fought a bear. There was no drop kicking of the bear. But these guys have been telling this story for so long.
She's just so humble.
And they make it so believable.
She just doesn't want to scare anybody away.
And people are so impressed with the fact that I did this. And it's like, now I don't even try to deny it when they tell the story, but I'm sure people go home and they're like, I don't know about that.
I don't know. I choose to believe there's a couple of your friends that just kind of hear us from the side conversation and go, holy shit.
She drop kicked a bear.
Adelina drop kicked a bear. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been in the tiny home for 2 years? 3 years? 2 years.
No, 3.5 years.
3.5 years? Wow, does that time go fast?
Mm-hmm. I moved in 2019, so 20, 21, 22. Yeah.
And I've heard you go through at least 2 bouts of having to just get rid of stuff because you've manage to accumulate it all again. The question is how long does it kind of take you to just wind up with so much stuff in a place like this with the storage that you have that you need to pull one of those purges? And what sort of stuff are you finding that you're hoarding when you really don't need to be?
Accumulating.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say hoarding.
Oh, no, I mean, you are getting rid of it.
Yeah. Well, and hoarding is an actual, doesn't matter. Anyways, that's true. When I first, I've done sort of purges and decluttering, big sort of decluttering things 3 times. Once before I moved into the tiny house when I sold the condo and moved in here.
Yeah, you kept precious little out of that place.
Yeah. 2/3 of the things at least were gone when I sold the condo and moved in with a friend for a couple months while the house was being finished. And I put the rest in storage. And then when we moved that stuff into the house, because you guys helped me get it out of storage, probably at least a quarter, if not a third of that final quarter, if that makes any sense, didn't come into the tiny house. But still, within about a year and a half, I found that I was starting to accumulate stuff. Now, the declutterings are not extreme by if I were to compare them to somebody with a full-size house.
Sure, there's only so much storage you've got in a tiny home. Yeah.
Exactly. But what I found was, and that's a really good question, what I found was when I had a sticks and bricks, when we had the townhouse, I would buy in bulk, or I would buy in amounts because you got a better price, and sort of stockpile. That's the word I'm looking for. So because I knew I would eventually need all that rice or all that flour or all those rolls of toilet paper or whatever, and I had a freezer at that time too, and that habit, that sort of instinct was still there. And so I found that the first time I had to was about a year and a half in, and I had to really go through and start to get rid of some stuff. There was a lot of that still. And that was what I did mostly was stop doing that and use up what I had. And then I also went through my clothes that I had brought into the tiny house and got rid of a lot of that. Things like that. And then when I moved here, when I packed up the tiny house to move to the island, what I realized was I had a lot of, I had gotten rid of what I thought a lot of dishes and cookware and things like that, but I still had a lot. And after having been in the house for 3 years, now I was sure that I wasn't using this stuff. And I think that that's sort of the key for decluttering. You get rid of the obvious stuff first, and then you need to, or at least I needed to, check in every year and a half, every 2 years, and see what hadn't I touched. And it's really easy when you're not moving your house or moving houses to store that stuff and it's out of sight, out of mind. But when I was moving that tiny house, I had to get everything out of the cupboards. And that was my opportunity to see all the stuff I didn't need, that I still had multiples of, or I just didn't use.
Yeah.
And so it was no longer things like foods and things like that I was stockpiling. It was that purge, that decluttering was all of the things that I wasn't using, hadn't used in 3 years, and figured if I needed it, I could go to the thrift store or used store and replace it if there was a situation where I would need it in the future.
So you've been in the tiny home for 3.5 years. I know you to be an extremely methodical, planned, researched person before you make even halfway medium-sized decisions. Yes. Is there anything, if you could go back in time and start from the design process working with Teacup Tiny Homes again, would you change the design of this place? How would you have done it a little different?
Oh, that's a really good question. And I can honestly say, no, there's nothing I would change. I might take the tub out.
You think?
And just have a
standing shower?
Just have a shower stall. But
sure.
That's neither here nor there. No, there's nothing I would change. Everything is just the right size. I love the bedroom size. Like, everything is just the right size.
Sure.
Yeah, which is pretty impressive if you think about it, because after being in here for 3.5 years, there should be something.
Yeah, there should be
or I would know if there was something.
Yeah.
And I can't think of anything.
No, you've gone from being tied into the electrical grid.
Have another beer.
Yeah, I guess. Tied into
It's New Year's Eve, so.
Tied into the electrical grid to being tied into a gas line to moving to propane to moving from being on a septic line to gray water.
French drain, yeah.
Exactly. So it seems like you really did future-proof this place, and I knew your goal was all along to be out on the coast.
Yeah. In that's a very good point, because I had a vision or a plan of where I wanted to end up. I made sure to build the house so it could be, it could be hooked up to city utilities like natural gas, electrical, obviously, and the sewer. But it also could be off grid, at least to some extent. And I didn't build in solar panels or a battery bank or anything like that. But, I always knew I was going to run the plumbing for a flush toilet, even if I went directly to a compost toilet, because that way, if I ever moved to a place where I had to be on sewer, the pipes were already there. Everything was already there.
Yeah.
And I knew that my appliances could be switched from propane to natural gas or back. So that gave me options. Right now I'm on propane, so I have a great big propane tank outside. But when I was in Calgary, I had to be hooked up to city utilities, so I had to be on natural gas, and it was just a matter of changing the little orifice and the fitting to do that, to make that happen. So yeah, and I never wanted to put solar panels on the house because not to start, because I knew that would make it more difficult to move. And I'm not convinced that solar panels on my roof is what I would want anyways, because when I find my forever spot, I would like to be more tucked in, more sheltered, and therefore it won't be as sunny. So my solar panel array would probably not be on my house anyways. And I didn't want to invest that money to start with, because I knew living in Calgary that wouldn't be something that I would need to do. But down the road.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't think that's so Canadian. Yeah, no. But
no.
No.
Yeah, no, yeah. No.
Yeah, no. But
know?
that is, no, everything is good. The loft is good.
Oh, yeah. The loft hasn't been tested as a guest room until I came to stay this year. And it's just fine. The ceiling, I think if you shot Bolter up right out of bed because something made a noise, you might bonk your head. But like,
not if you're, because the mattress is right in the center, and that's the peak.
Yeah. No, the loft is
it's worked out well. The ladder is good. I think that everything is good. I wouldn't change a thing. Mm-hmm. The size is good. The office space has been good. It's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cheers.
Okay, what?
Okay, so when you're planning a tiny home, it's being built, you're watching hundreds and hundreds of videos, you've got a pretty good idea of what the challenges that you might face with a tiny home are. Yeah. What were the challenges that you anticipated that didn't end up being a thing, and the challenges that you didn't anticipate that did end up becoming quite the thing? For somebody who is in the process of putting a tiny home together, who's watching these videos and thinking, is this the lifestyle I'm going to like what's your... You just got to be aware of blank.
I anticipated a lot of objections to the tiny house and difficulties in parking it, which was why I went with a builder that was CSA certified, which added to the cost of the build but was worth every cent, and why I ran the plumbing for a flush toilet, because municipalities, a lot of cities won't allow a compost toilet, and why I made sure to register the trailer, because the trailer has a VIN number, so it needs to be registered as something. So I made sure to register it as a park model versus an RV.
Oh, do you need a plate on this thing?
No,
Okay.
You do to move it.
Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
you do have to have a plate to move it, but the mover will have a plate that they put on, which is what they did. So a lot of those things that I anticipated, because I anticipated them, didn't become a problem, at least not so far. But as far as living in the tiny house, I worried that I would find it too small. I didn't think so, but there's always that concern that, you're moving, even though the condo wasn't wasn't that big. It was 1,200 square feet. But moving into a space that's under 400 square feet is a big difference.
The living room of that place was like the kitchen and the living room here doubled that way. It was
big.
Yeah.
And the master bedroom was big, but it wasn't a big space. But I thought that I worried that I might have a problem with it feeling too small and me running out of space to store things. That has not happened. What has happened that I didn't anticipate that has been a challenge? Well, there's a lot more work to move in this sucker.
No doubt.
Than you think. But that's just because I'd never done it before. And now I know, sort of thing. But okay, I know. I didn't anticipate how heavy this sucker was going to be with stuff in it. And so therefore I didn't have the discussion with my builder when we ordered the trailer.
Okay.
Because we did have that blowout, the axles, the tires are not rated for the weight of the trailer. And the house was almost at max weight when I got it, based on, everything that I've since learned. So therefore, I should have been more aware of that. I did not anticipate that. So if you're building a house this size, and Serendipity is 37 feet long, 9.5 feet wide, and because, I have pine, tongue and groove siding on the inside, it's wood framed, it's heavy.
It's fantastic.
Because it's built like a regular house. What I should have done, and what I would advise or at least have people think about if you're building a house this size, is maybe dualies, having double wheels. So instead of, it's a triple axle, but there's only one tire on each axle. What I should have ordered and paid the extra money for was dual wheels on each of the 6 axles, or each of the 3 axles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of 6 wheels, 12 wheels.
Yeah.
Because that would have taken care of the weight of the house plus everything in it, and given you the security when you're moving down the road. Because that was stressful. The tire blowout was stressful. The fact that the tires that were on here weren't proper rating for the weight of the house. And I didn't know. And so now I know. And if I move the house again, because I can't put dualies on now, I will buy 6 new tires that are rated for heavier, the heaviest I can get. And that will be enough, because she's never going back over the mountains to that distance. I don't anticipate.
Yeah, it was a heck of a trek having...
Yeah, but that's the one thing I didn't anticipate that turned out to be a big deal. And luckily turned out okay. But if you're building a house this size, you really want to think about, like, I thought I had it figured out. I thought I was taking that into account. That's why I did a triple axle trailer, because, I knew she was going to be heavy. But I do think that the builder should have anticipated that to some extent, because the layout was set when the trailer was ordered, and the only thing that was in here that wasn't anticipated in that layout was the IKEA bed that I had delivered to the builder, and they assembled and put in the bedroom before I got the trailer. So it came to me at almost capacity, and that's not good. That shouldn't happen. So be aware of that.
Now, we've only got a couple more questions here about the tiny home itself, then we're going to start to dive into who is Adelina Banks.
Don't make this too long and too deep.
Well, you talk about a forever spot. The spot you're in right now, compared to your spot in Calgary, is gorgeous. Moss-covered trees, this really sweet ravine with a creek down it. You've got a goat hanging out with a horse just down the road over there, an actual rooster. He
just loves the goat, yeah.
Turns out roosters crow any time of day they feel like.
Yes, they do.
So when you picture your forever spot compared to this one, like what are you seeing different here? What was the downfall of this spot?
Well, there's not a downfall per se, but I already know that this spot isn't going to be sunny enough for me for a permanent spot. And I would like to own a piece of land at some point.
Not just be...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and I want a spot that's sunnier, and if possible, I would love to have a view of the water, either a lake or the ocean. I don't want to be right on it, but if I can see it in the distance through the trees, that would be my dream.
Oh, yeah.
So I want a spot, a nice sunny spot with a few acres of land where I can park the tiny house, where I can build a workshop or art studio, where I can build a couple of smaller tiny houses as bunkies for when the kids come to visit, or when friends come to visit, or to rent out.
You're at the point now at the tiny home that you need to start a collection. I love it.
I've talked about it before. I wouldn't mind building a little log cabin, and this wouldn't be on a trailer, but a small mini log cabin. And there's just some things I'd like to do, and I would like the land to do that. But that is my next 5-year plan.
Sure.
For sure. But definitely a spot where I could have some small tiny houses, little bunkies, probably not on wheels, where I could have family visit, friends visit, and rent out on Airbnb. Your questions are so good.
I've been working on this interview for a while. We talked about this 8 months ago. I asked you if you wanted to do an episode where I interviewed you.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is one I've asked you this before. You are easily my biggest role model. I'm not going to tell too much of your story. I don't know how much you want to share on the internet, but there was a point in your life when you were working full time, raising 2 boys as a single mother, and going to school, changing careers, massively deciding on a different future for yourself, all while I was in some of the toughest years to just throw on you of my life. For anybody that's just has this much on their plate and they're a parent, like, how did you keep that together? Because I look back at that nowadays, at my life, with the amount of stress I have to deal with, I have no clue how you managed to get through that.
Well, if I'm going to be the answer that comes to mind right away is, as soon as you're a parent, you just do it. Because failure is not an option. And so I had to keep everything together so that you and Jamie could have security and safety, and not be worried about that. What I really didn't want is for you guys to feel unsafe or insecure in anything.
No, and we never went hungry. We never really wanted for anything. We never ever wanted for your support and an ear and love.
I mean, you didn't have all of the stuff that maybe some of your friends did, but you had everything you needed and most of what you wanted.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
And then as far as how did I do it, practically, I had a system for everything. I remember one time saying to Jenny, she said something, Jenny's my best friend, and I said, I got a system for that. And she's like, you got a system for everything. And I'm like, yes, I do, because I'm a single parent. Yeah. And if I don't have a system, then life is chaos, and I don't like chaos. And so I would lay out my clothes and your clothes, you guys' clothes for the next morning. I knew exactly what the meals were going to be. I kept track of everything. I had routines and systems that I put in place, and I followed them. I'm not a fly by the seat of my pants kind of person.
No. Not the biggest fan of surprises.
No. And so I just made a plan and built a system, which is by nature who I am anyways. It's part of what I do for a living. It's just who I am. So I made a plan. I put systems in place, and I followed those systems. And life was maybe not super exciting, but at least it was organized and it was predictable, and that was my goal. So yeah, I think we did okay.
Oh yeah.
Like I say, when you become a parent, you just do it.
I suppose so. Yeah. So the next question is for about raising teenagers. There's one story I know you quite like to tell involving me and an eyebrow.
You weren't a teenager then, though.
No, I was like 12 or 13.
Yeah, no, you were probably 11 or 12. Okay. Yeah.
I was old enough to shave.
Sort of. Yeah, well, yeah, but you are Portuguese, and half Portuguese, half Viking, so you probably had a full beard at 5.
I'll let you tell the story because I know you're fond of it.
Well, I mean, it was just funny. Keaton had gone. He was having a shower, and I was reading to Jamie, and he comes running out of the bathroom after a shower and into his room, and
crying.
I'm like, "No, you just ran. You weren't crying." And I'm like, what's going on? And you're like, I'm fine, I'm going to go to bed. And of course, mommy's spidey senses are tingling. And I'm like, what? What's going on? Keaton, come here. No, I'm fine. I'm going to go to bed. Keaton, come here. No, I'm good. I'm really tired. I'm going to go to bed. And I'm like, get in here. So he comes walking into my room like this. And I'm like, what's going on? Let me see. No. Let me see what happened. What's going on? He's like, no, you're going to laugh. And I'm like, I'm not going to laugh. I promise I won't laugh. And so he takes his hand off and he shaved his eyebrow off. And I laughed. And he's like, see, I knew you were going to laugh.
Just trying to get rid of this.
And
didn't really pan out.
Apparently, one of the kids in his class had made fun of his unibrow and his bushy eyebrows. And he had taken my razor, the one I used to shave my legs, in the shower with no mirror and tried to shave, and he'd shaved pretty much all of his eyebrow.
Yeah, there's about a third of it left.
You must have been 11 or 12. Yeah, 12. Maybe 13 even. Anyways, so he's like, I can't go to school. I'm like, listen, first of all, there's nothing I don't know about hair removal. I mean, being Portuguese, we know about hair removal, right?
Yeah,
so why didn't you come to me first? And then second, look, it's okay. We're going to be fine. So I ended up drawing in his eyebrow for like weeks. Every morning I would draw in his eyebrow. And luckily you were allowed to wear a toque then. And he'd comb his hair down and then put his toque on so it would cover his eyebrow. And did anybody notice?
No, nobody said it. Gosh darn thing.
God, that was funny. But until it grew in. Luckily, it grew in pretty fast. But raising teenagers, it's the same for anybody, right? You guys, you
get to witness a lot of mistakes in action.
You become kind of a dumbass when you're a teenager, both male and female. That's part of growing up.
Sure. And your level of self-absorption is so huge that you...
Well, yeah, that's true. And you're figuring out who you are.
Sure.
But,
trying a lot of different things.
Really, there was times where I was tired of being bad cop all the time because, when you're a single parent, you're always bad cop, you're always the disciplinarian, but you guys really didn't you weren't difficult kids. You were even teenagers.
No, we only got bad in our 20s.
Yeah, you guys were late bloomers when it came to rebellion. But even then, it wasn't bad, and you had good friends, so no, it wasn't that bad.
Okay. So you are a content creator now. What are you now? A micro-influencer?
No.
Oh.
Whatever.
You're past 10,000.
35,000.
Nice. So at this point, it's been quite the journey. I know you've learned a heck of a lot. And if somebody was out there going, I'd like to start making content, I'm really interested in blank, what would your advice be if, let's say one of your commenters came and said, Adelina, I love what you do. I just want to make stuff like this.
Oh, that's a good question. And I actually do have a video on why I started on YouTube and how and what I do. And if my cheeks are getting red, it's because I'm drinking wine. It is New Year's Eve. And so my advice would be to not try and copy somebody else's style. Because you probably have YouTube channels that you really like, and people that you follow, and each of them has their own style, and it's I think easy to try and copy one of those people's style because you like watching it.
Sure.
But it won't feel natural to the people who are watching you. It's a bit of advice that I got early on. And it's one that I have stuck to. So my videos are not heavily produced. They're not heavily edited.
No,
they're not very slick.
Minimally scripted.
Yeah, I make points of what I'm going to talk about.
Sure.
And, there's not a ton of B-roll and stuff like that. And that's because that's not my style. And so my videos, my style is I'm just having a coffee, or in this case, a glass of wine with a friend. And so that's my style. But that's me. And so my advice to anybody who wanted to start a YouTube channel is make sure you're talking about something that you're interested in, because then you'll be interesting when you talk about it.
Sure.
And just settle into your own style. When you start out, you can look at the styles you like and incorporate bits and pieces from each of those those creators and settle into your own. It'll take a few videos, so definitely find your own style. And 2, just press record. Like, don't worry about what you look like. Don't worry about the editing. Don't worry about any of that. Just keep pressing record, keep recording the videos. You'll get better. You'll settle into your style. You'll figure out how to edit. And people will watch you because of all of those things. So you won't be everybody's cup of tea. And that's okay. But there will be people that will resonate with what you have to say if it's something you're really interested in.
Sure.
And who will really like the way you say it. Mm-hmm. And that's really all that matters. And I think that the only way that this can be something that grows and you keep doing is if it's something you're really interested in. And also, so that's point 2. And point 3 would be, don't be afraid to evolve. Just because you started doing one thing doesn't mean that that's it. That's the only thing you can ever talk about on your channel. When I first started, it was just about tiny houses. And then it became tiny houses and intentional living. And then it became also some cooking and plant-based recipes. And that's okay. So that might not resonate with some people. They might not want to watch those videos. That's okay. They don't have to. But the way I see it is, this is my channel. This is my creative outlet. So I want to make content that I would be interested in.
Yeah.
And thankfully, there's enough people, there's enough of you guys out there that are interested in that content as well. And I'm sure not every video is super fascinating, interesting for you, but hopefully there's enough that you find interesting that you keep watching and hopefully subscribing, because still only 50% of my viewers are subscribers, and I don't know why, because it's such a great family here.
Hit the subscribe button.
Yeah, and
What are you
the
waiting
like
for?
button, maybe
Yeah.
the little bell notification.
We love you. Just show us some love with the subscribe. I
Yeah.
did want to say, as a millennial who grew up with the internet, having your mom put themselves out there is terrifying, because we all know the internet is full of... Am I allowed to swear here? We'll keep it low. It's full of a lot of jerks. A lot of very nasty people who just want to drag other people down because, I don't know, that's what makes them happy. And I go through my mom's comment section, and everybody is so supportive, so nice, so loving, so glad to see things. I receive some really wonderful comments that I hope you know I go ego surfing on when I'm having bad days. That eggnog video is what gets me through a lot of rough days. So I just wanted to thank all of you for showing my mom so much love and support. It really means a lot to both me and her.
Yeah.
It's nice to know that your fan base protects you and they cherish you.
Well, I know that the biggest concern you had when I first started YouTube was that there would be trolls and there would be hateful comments and
Sure.
things like that. And that just hasn't happened. I mean, there's been some people I've blocked. But in general,
Sure.
you guys are amazing and so supportive of me and of each other, which is fantastic. And so I'm very grateful. And Keaton is very grateful as well, because he's very protective. How much more we got?
Just one.
Okay.
So the question is, do you know I love you?
Oh,
I appreciate you so much, Mom. Come here. The things you do,
Aw,
the care
so
you take,
sweet.
the support you give.
So
There isn't anything about you that isn't just fantastic. And I am proud to call myself your son.
oh my God, you don't make me cry.
Well, we don't have to have you cry on camera, but I did just want you to know that as much support as you've given me, I'm right behind you. I think the life you're living is fantastic. I think the things you're doing are amazing, and I'm brag about you to my friends because you're just that cool.
Oh my God, I'm not cool. I'm not cool.
I
But
think
thank you, sweetheart.
I think I'm
appreciate
cool, and I'm in this poncho. I didn't even put on the pants I wanted to wear. You should see
I
them.
made him take off the harem
They're fantastic.
that he bought at the thrift store earlier.
Some might call them gaudy. I call them spectacular.
Thank you, Keaton.
You're welcome.
I enjoyed that. That was fun.
Yeah.
And I'm a little drunk, but not really. Just a little bit.
We're going to have our New Year's Eve dinner.
And then we're going to watch
second Lord of the Rings movie.
Yeah, not the Two Towers.
Two
Is that
Towers. It's the Two Towers.
It is Two Towers.
Yeah.
And we will be asleep by 10.
Yes.
Because I haven't stayed up till midnight on New Year's Eve.
No, it hits 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bedtime.
This is not going to happen. But
Yeah.
anyways, guys, I just want to say Happy New Year to you. And thank you so much for being amazing and for watching and for supporting this guy when he shows up on my channel.
Yeah, I hope you really enjoyed this episode. We've been talking about it for a while, and then Mom moved out to the coast, and I only now just got a chance to actually do this interview.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, guys, we love you.
We love you.
Take care. Remember, in a world where you can be anything,
be better than the rest.
be kind.
Be kind. In a world where you can be anything, don't be a jerk.
That works too.
Make good choices.
Okay, we love you. Bye.
Yeah, let's shut off this recording.